Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to day 2 of our global conference. I hope you're all enjoying yourselves. For those of you who do not know me, I'm Steph Delazar, GSTC's communications manager, and I have to read some safety instructions first. The premises have a voice-guided evacuation alarm. Therefore, leave the premises immediately if you're prompted to do so. I hope this does not happen. The premises have emergency exits. Look around. The closest one might be right behind you. So I saw one there, none behind me. We're good. In case of an emergency, there's a defibrillator in the entrance of the lobby. Okay, with that said, before we start with this insightful session, talking about sustainability without talking about sustainability, I want to encourage you to use the official hashtag GSTC2024Sweden when posting on social media. You know you can enter our lucky draw. The prize is a free registration for one of our amazing trainings. And don't forget to tag also GSTC. I promise I'll like and repost everything you post on social media tonight when I'm in bed. Okay, so this communication session, we invite you to embark on the journey of how to integrate the essence of sustainability in every story you tell. We will learn the art of resonating with our audience without overwhelming them, connecting deeply with their values and goals. So let's discover together the secrets of understanding traveler needs and learn how to tailor communication to engage with different target groups effectively. So at the end of this session, I hope all of you feel confident and prepared to lead your conversation on sustainability. Because it's not just about what we say, but how we say it. So let's make sustainability irresistible. So let's begin with a brief introduction of our first speaker. Let's meet Emma Björner. Emma, say hi.
Hello.
Emma's a researcher in business administration and marketing at the School of Business, Economics, and Law at the University of Gothenburg in Sweden. Her researches focuses on the branding and development of sustainable places, destinations, and organizations with a focus on co-creation, sustainability, inclusion, digitalization, culture, and food. At the University of Gothenburg, Emma is affiliated with the Center for Tourism and the Center for Consumption Research. She is also the coordinator of the European Community on Tourism and Experiences, gathering researchers from Venice, Lisbon, Barcelona, Paris, and Gothenburg. The stage is all yours, Emma.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Estefanía, for that very nice introduction. And hello, everyone. Very nice to see you all. And I'm delighted to be here and to be invited to talk and to participate in this panel. As a researcher for the past years, I've been working closely with Visit Sweden and following their work on creating and communicating Sweden as a sustainable destination. In that work, we saw the need for an increased focus among tourism actors to focus on sustainability, to work with it and communicate around it. And this is the topic for my presentation today. In Sweden, there is a lot of tourism actors of small size. A lot of them have limited resources to communicate about sustainability. A lot of the tourism actors do a lot when it comes to sustainability, but do not necessarily communicate about all the work they do. So we saw a need for good examples, inspiring examples that can be lifted up in order to inspire other tourism actors around Sweden to also engage in sustainability and communicate about it. In research, we see that sustainability communication is very much an emerging research topic. Previous research has focused a lot on environmental communication and green marketing. And consequently, we see a need for a more of a holistic approach when it comes to sustainability communication, encompassing all dimensions of sustainability. We also see a need for more research focusing on personal communication when it comes to sustainability and online communication. Sustainability communication is not an established theory as of now. Rather, it draws on a lot of different theories and disciplines. Related concepts with sustainability communication is sustainability marketing, green marketing, and inclusive marketing. Some would say that these kinds of concepts and practices is very much exploitative practices for hedonistic or encouraging hedonistic consumerism. Whereas others would argue that sustainability communication and marketing can rather push for a development that is sustainable and also encourage more bring about more change among consumers and visitors. So we set out to look into or study how do tourism actors in Swedish work with and communicate about sustainability. We first conducted a survey to get input on what are the best practices or good examples of tourism actors that do a good job with this. And then we selected 15 tourism actors and did in-depth interviews, as well as analysis of online materials. So I'll give a few highlights of some of the tourism actors next. First, we have Camp Ripan. This is an experience resort and accommodation facility in Kiruna in the very north of Sweden. The three cultures of the region very much impacts and is very much permeated or integrated in this facility or this place, this organization. So when you enter the building, there is a fireplace. In the materials used is birch wood and ore from the mine. The birch leaves are used in the tea and in the products in the spa, for example. A lot of narration around sustainability is done through photos and videos in different online channels. An interesting aspect of Camp Ripan is also that they have something called Ripan Academy. So every year at the beginning of the season, for all employees, they educate their staff on sustainability and the culture of the region. And they encourage all employees to take that information in and create their own stories, to create personal stories related to sustainability, the culture of the region, and communicate that in turn with the guests or the visitors. Another example comes from Lilla Bjärs. This is a farm, a shop, and a restaurant located in the island Gotland in southeast Sweden. They were certified by the label Krav in 2001 and is very much an ecological farm. At the core is to communicate about sustainability in a very honest, clear, and transparent way. And they also feel that they can provide a security to their customers and visitors by having a certification and a third-party control. This farm is also very much rooted in culture and history. Here in the farm, they have found findings from 2,500 years ago showing that there were people cooking in this place back in the Bronze Age. And throughout the years, they have found different objects in the ground and gathered them into a small museum in the shop. And they talk a lot with the guests and the visitors about these small findings if they are interested. And they also emphasize the importance of walking the talk or really doing what you say you're doing and not saying that you should do that or you should do this, but showing we do this way because we think it's good and why we think it's good when it comes to sustainability. Another company and organization is Eco Sightseeing. This is a sightseeing company here in Stockholm. They have an electric certified boat. The motto is inspired by Greta Thunberg. No one is too small to make a difference, and sustainability is very much at the core of this organization. They a few years ago, started collaborating with the Museum of Photography in Stockholm, running a shuttle ferry for the museum. They teamed up with the Photographic Museum because they thought that their approach to sustainability was very progressive and in line with their own views. It also proved very helpful for them to do this kind of collaboration because it enabled them to reach a wider audience through the communication channels of a big actor like the Museum of Photography. And the owner, the founder, and his team, they communicate a lot about sustainability on the boat with the guests. And they communicate about things that they are very passionate about. And they say that if you show that you're passionate about the sustainability topics that you talk about, then the message will get across. Another example is Falängetorp. This is an organic and certified farm or agriculture that has cows, pigs, and sheep. It is also a disability-friendly bed and breakfast in a farm setting. And they have various activities and then accommodation that is completely disability-friendly. You can come to Falängetorp and be a farmer for a day, for a weekend, or a school holiday. And you can then experience what it's like to be in a farm, how to take care of animals, how to think about the nature. And during this being a farmer for a day, you also get to sit down with a farmer, to have a farmer coffee with locally produced bread, sausages, and vegetables, and to talk about various issues that relates to this farm and touches on sustainability often in many different ways. Yet another example is the Marine Knowledge Center in South Sweden, Malmö. They have a mission to create awareness about the ocean. They think that everyone, no matter your age or who you are, should be able to get literate about the ocean. They do this in different ways. They have an interactive exhibition where they focus a lot on communicating about the sustainable development goals. They do it in a personal way with guides in the exhibition and at the activities that they have. And they think this communicating about in a personal way creates a lot of curiosity and interest among the visitors. They also do various activities such as guided tours on the sea, snorkeling and netting, and then in the context of the activities communicate a lot about sustainability. Another example is Malin in Ratan. This is a shop that produces and sells organic soap that is handicrafted. They do a lot of different activities and corporate events. And they say that the people that come to these events and that buy soap is a knowledgeable group of people that are very interested in learning about sustainability and the things that the soaps entail and the whole organization stands for. They communicate a lot via their website and social media, and they also work a lot with local collaborations, both with other companies, but also a lot with tourism organizations and the DMO in the area, and find that very helpful. And then a final example is Parks and Resorts. This is an experience. This is an organization that runs 4 experience parks around Sweden. We have Gröna Lund here in Stockholm as one of them. They work a lot with social sustainability and have a long tradition of working with inclusive recruitment. One way to communicate about sustainability is through their sustainability report that they really try to make simple, fun, and easy to read with the purpose of reaching a large group of people. They work a lot with different projects that they aim with the aim to inspire and create engagement and commitment around sustainability. One such project is that they have sustainability ambassadors. And these are for people that work during the summer season in the parks. So they can sign, whoever is interested can sign up and work with the sustainability group. And they are then educated about the work of sustainability of parks and resorts, but are also then working on the ground with the ear on the ground and catching, okay, what are the things that can be improved in our parks when it comes to sustainability. Another project is the Upcycle Challenge, which was aimed for reducing food waste and coming up with innovative ways of dealing with or taking care of food. And this was also using an app, and they created a competition between the different experience parks. Okay, so to wrap up, some key patterns that we see in this study is that a lot of the communication that happens when it comes to sustainability happens in personal communication between people with guests or the organization and guests. Many of the tourism actors emphasize the need to be honest, clear, and transparent, and to really do what you say that you say you do. To collaborate in different ways is also something that is very much emphasized, and that could be collaborating with nearby organizations, for example, buying locally produced food from neighbors. But it could also be with, such as the case with the Photographic Museum, so teaming up with a bigger actor and then getting the possibility to communicate via that actor's channels. And to communicate with passion about the sustainability work is something that is addressed as that is a good recipe for getting the message across. And then to engage visitors and people in different activities, in projects, in competitions is also something that is seen as a good way to get the message across and get people involved. And there is a general feeling that a lot of visitors are interested, they are curious, and they want to learn about sustainability. So I'll stop there. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Emma. I love the example of Camp Ripon, where they educate every year and they empower the people that work there to tell their own stories. Love that. And what you said about no one is too small to make a change. Okay, let's continue. We're continuing with Milena. Milena, say hi. Milena Nikolova is a leading expert in human psychology and behavior change in the context of travel. She uses knowledge about how people make decisions and act to support leisure enterprises and destination authorities in achieving market success and improving sustainability performance. Milena is the author of the first book that explores the potential of applying knowledge from behavioral science to strategic issues in the travel industry. She's also the co-founder of Behavior Smart, a company specialized in behavior smart innovations for the travel sector. So all yours, Milena.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be part of this panel, part of this conference, and part of this power panel. What I want to share with you over the next few minutes is what we know based on understanding traveler hearts and minds. So I want to hopefully convince you that actually what we know about human psychology and specifically about traveler psychology can help us greatly in making sustainability effortless, but also non-negotiable. So I'm going to build on some of the points that Emma made even before me and talk about why this actually makes sense. The main reason is that I think all of us will agree that the magic of travel happens from the interaction of people to people and people to places. When we look at what we know in human psychology and apply it to travel, we actually seek out the elements that make for memorable experiences. What we know about human psychology explains what are the things that make people's hearts and minds connect to places? What is it that constitutes or shapes the memories that they take home? And what is it that makes one memory stronger and longer than others? So it's all about what happens in their minds and their hearts. So the idea here is that if what we know about human psychology helps us understand what makes up for a powerful experience, can we take that same knowledge and actually put it to use in our efforts to keep the travel just as memorable and exciting and rich in terms of experience, but also more sustainable? So as we are looking for different innovative and technological ways to optimize the footprint of our industry, our belief is that while all of this should be happening, there's also much that we can find if we go back to human and we seek out some of the insights that we have about our minds and hearts and actually put it to work towards sustainability. So, how can we use knowledge about human psychology in our sustainability efforts? In two ways. First, we can really understand why it has been so difficult for us to make the industry sustainable, even though many of the principles that we continue to talk about we have been talking about for more than 2 decades. And really, what continues to fuel the growing intention-action gap, which I'm sure that most of you have heard about, talked about, and probably discussed with fellow professionals. So this first part of understanding why sustainability has been so difficult has a lot to do with what happens with a traveler's mind and heart when they are traveling. And the main thing that we need to be realistic about and to understand is that when people travel, they release controls. The same way that you're probably very strict with your diet and exercise schedule when you're at home, and not so strict with your diet and your exercise schedule when you travel to destinations, and especially ones that have delicious desserts or fantastic wine and so on. The same way you deviate from your responsible behaviors. So even if at home you're extremely diligent with your recycling and separate waste collection, with your use of energy, with your buying local behavior, when you travel, you deviate from that. And there's scientific research that shows that even the people who are extremely committed in their daily life to sustainable practices immediately deviate from that when they're on the road, unless it's just as easy to do it as it is at home. So that's what science tells us, and that's how the human behavior simply works. So we are having a hard time getting even the people who are very disciplined at home to do the same when they travel. So in essence, we are dealing with a person in a release control mode, and we are at the same time trying to ask them to be responsible and to take to make an effort, to make a sacrifice in order to do what's best for the earth. And so this conflict between the fact that we are mainly motivated by the desire to have an experience and forget about the responsibility at home, and the attempt to make us to actually be responsible and do things which clash with pleasure, creates this situation where sustainability efforts almost feel like trying to swim upstream a very, very, very quick river. So it doesn't work. Now, this is what we know from psychology when it comes to why the current efforts of educating and getting travelers to lead the effort of becoming more sustainable is not working. Now, can psychology help us actually do these things better? And luckily, the answer is yes. There is, believe it or not, a design and a scenario where we could use what we know about how people make decisions and how they engaging experiences in order to design choice situations in a way that feels more like this. And there's two important things that we need to do. One is that we need to make sustainability effortless. There's many choice points along the experience journey where travelers go with whatever is easiest, not with whatever is the best for the planet, not with whatever is best for the destination, but whatever is presented as easy, right? If I had a plastic bottle here and I was thirsty, I was going to drink from it. Because I have an easy access to a reusable glass, this is what's going to happen. So many such choice points can be actually easily redesigned in order to feel that way. There's another group of decisions that we make when we travel, which are related to having a stronger experience and more impactful experience into creating more memories to take home. These are the choice points when it's not about ease, it's about appeal and excitement. And these are the moments, the choice points, when sustainability has to be weaved into the experience. And it needs to be weaved into the experience in similar manner as Emma's examples gave, where it's so gently weaved into the design that it becomes an exciting part or an ingredient of it. And in other cases, it doesn't even have to be packaged or referred to as sustainability. It can be simply presented as the most exciting and best way to experience the local place. So, I know that I just teased your interest with knowledge about human psychology, and I hope that I have convinced you that we have sufficient knowledge in behavioral sciences to actually know how to change behavior, and that travel can be made sustainable in a way that's both pleasant and effortless for travelers and non-negotiable for us as industry players. I'm happy to discuss more after that.
Thank you, Milena. Glad to hear there's hope in changing human behavior. Last but not least, Juliet, say hi. Juliet is a sustainability expert, editor, journalist, broadcaster. She's the first sustainability editor of Condé Nast Traveler and the driving force behind the Evening Standard Sustainable Travel Channel and their award-winning 6-part series podcast. She hosts also her own podcast called Funny Old World, powered by Viva. She's the founding editor of Mr. and Mrs. Smith. She's written and edited many guidebooks over the years, most recently about green travel. In 2015, she created a purpose-led nonprofit communications consultancy called Buteco to amplify stories of sustainability from luxury travel, working with brands such as the Mandarin Oriental Hotel Group on their annual sustainability report. So the stage is all yours, Juliet. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks. Wow. Did you notice they didn't use any notes? And English is not their first language, but I have got notes. Something else, tough acts to follow. Something else, did you notice? They're doctors. I'm afraid the closest I've ever come to scientific research was interviewing ecstasy manufacturer and drug dealers about how they managed to keep the price of MDMA down so low. I should add, I was a music journalist in the 90s. It wasn't a personal research project. Apparently the trick was brick dust. They compacted it with brick dust. But anyway, so what it did give me was a great story, no academic qualifications, and I got the cover of Time Out for that. But stories. Well, how do we talk about sustainability without talking about sustainability? I got to admit, look, I'm sorry to say it in this room, I don't even really like the word sustainability, you know? But we have to use it, and the great thing is, it's in the mainstream. Everyone's using it. Everyone knows what it is. That's a fantastic thing, because it's a pretty tough world out there. There are a lot of negative messages, a lot of doom-mongering, there's a lot of conflict in this world. And you know, if you look at the causes of geopolitical conflict, obviously the themes are very similar to what we talk about in sustainability. You've got water scarcity, you've got food insecurity, you've got political instability. It's all related. So it's part of the same conversation, but we need more positive messages. We need inspiring stories of success. you know, we've heard from a psychologist about how we need to close the intention-action gap. We've also heard from a placemaker, exemplars of talking about sustainability, inspiring. It's really, really important. But there's so much noise out there. How do we cut through with our stories? I think we need to be interesting. I think we need to be charismatic. We need people listening because they are not listening. They're not listening right now. So I guess, well, I come to you with 30 years experience as a storyteller. That's what LinkedIn tells me. I'm like this, oh my God. Okay. So I've been a freelance journalist for a long time, from working at the BBC, went back when bbc.co.uk back in 2000 was the most looked at website in the world, through to, well, all different, you heard. Thing is, it doesn't mean because I'm a professional I'm better. Think about the stories that have resonated with you. I loved what Emma said, you know, those really personal stories. Think about the stories when you travel, when we travel, the people you connect with, and things, the causes, they make you understand better. It's so, so powerful. What made them special? Authentic? Made you feel something? Made you care? Mine have been from some of the most unassuming people around the world. When I think about the stories I've heard, wow. I mean, I'm privileged to say some of these people have gone on to become friends, and all of us have traveled a lot. When I heard from my friend Gael about his journey from South Sudan, one of the most underreported stories of last year, it was the anniversary last week, 1 year. 2 million people displaced, hearing his story from him, wow. Not always happy stories that make us really think. So I always want to think, how can we be helpful when we tell stories? Because let's be honest at these conferences, I'm all about the telling, but there's a hell of a lot of selling. You know, are we promoting brands? Are we thinking about the audience? I feel like I have the climate breathing down the back of my neck saying, tell my story. But not all of you are independent journalists. That's why I'm here. We can't always tell people what the problems are. We have to show them. We have to talk about the why. Always have that front of mind, the why. Look, as a business, we all want to stand out for something, right? We want to be famous for something. But I think if you want to be famous for sustainability, you have a responsibility, almost a duty to perform a public service. We've come a long way since I started talking about sustainability, in particular in luxury travel. That's back in 2015. I used to always say, sustainability, it's a bit like teenage sex. They're all talking about it. Not that many are actually doing it. And those that are doing it aren't doing it very well. So let's carry on with that analogy, right? They're all on their phones. They're probably having even less sex. They're probably seeing and talking about it even more. It's the same as sustainability. The greenwash. We can't move for the greenwash. I had the great privilege of doing a course this week with RAM, GSTC criteria, and you know, it's funny because he compared tourists to teenagers. They act on their emotions, like lose all their sort of rational minds. I love that. It's a really helpful analogy. I'm here really today. Thank you for having me here today to talk about how do we talk about sustainability without talking about sustainability. That's also like teenagers, because you have to sort of reverse psychology. If I want to tell my daughter to do something, I can't. I have to think of a different way of doing it, right? Anyone with kids knows that. So we need to shake things up. We can't be nagging. We can't be that nagging mum. We need to find new ways. We need to preach to the unconverted, right? Hello, echo chamber. We all know what we need to do, but we need to get out there. So I love this quote. André Gide, he said, everything that needs to be said has already been said, but since no one was listening, we need to say it all again. He said that over 100 years ago. Right, you mentioned 20 years, 30 years. It was Earth Day this week. Does anyone know when the first Earth Day was? 54 years ago. 54. I'm going to get a drink, sorry. I'm fantastically nervous. I might not look it, but I am. So, yeah, 54 years. Doesn't seem to be catching on. All I got was a hell of a lot of press releases trying to sell stuff, which kind of defeats the point of Earth Day. So people don't like to be told what to do. They like to be reminded. Samuel Johnson, he's the guy that wrote the dictionary back in the 1700s, right? People need to be reminded more often than they need to be told. Ram also emphasized that in our course. We all have opportunities all the time to tell stories that people need to listen to. We need to be helpful. And it can have such a powerful exponential effect. That's what travel is all about. telling stories that people are going to tell their friends, well, in the olden days, down the pub, that's what we used to say as journalists in the 90s and the noughties. And now it's things they'll share on social media, things they'll go home and talk about in the dinner parties. So if you said to me, what's the best story and who would be helpful in telling, I'd be like, I know, why don't you get the World Economic Forum to say the climate emergency is the biggest threat to humanity of our time? How about, oh wait, they did at Davos. And it didn't make that much difference. And actually, did you notice I called it the climate emergency? Are we still saying climate change? That is way too mild. Climate crisis, climate collapse, climate chaos, climate emergency. I feel like climate change. We just need to change the language. We also heard yesterday from Randy, we heard that we need to be developing our skills for reporting and measurement. That's one of the most important things we can be doing. Definitely. We need that data. It's not just about the stories. We need the hard data, hard facts. They also make the best stories. I love this. Brené Brown, one of the most watched TED Talks, The Power of Vulnerability. What are stories but data with soul? I love that. But the thing is, we need to help people with the data and understand it. And we need to help people understand why certain things matter. And we can't just use the words biodiversity. We heard about nature-based solutions, which was fantastic. We heard about rewilding. We heard about iconic species. And I just thought, we just have to keep reminding people exactly what that is and why it matters. On my Instagram, my post I did on Tuesday from our lovely opening night, I was looking at those Venetian Gothic arches, right? What incredible, the City Hall. And you look at the keystone, that's what holds up the arches in architecture. And, that's what a keystone species is. We need to constantly be explaining to everyone that what these terms mean, we can't assume. I did a talk for my accountants last week in London. I'm not kidding you. Half the room didn't know what ESG meant. We have a lot of work to do. I spent some time with a hotel group a few years ago in India. Their strapline was responsible luxury. I asked the concierge, I asked everyone, straight through to the manager, why is that your strapline? Why is that your slogan? No one knew. If they'd followed Emma's advice, we want personal stories. We've got to engage everyone. That's how we're going to actually get people understanding what sustainability is, why it matters. There is the science. So I love it. I love to sort of look at the data, look at all of that, and match it to the stories. I think we need to be activating helpful storytelling. Like Milena said, does that give you warm, fuzzy feelings? Like Milena said, it's people. It's humans connecting most with stories about other humans, or from humans. I hear so many of the cliches. We can't help ourselves. Come on, we all have to say travel's a force for good. We say all this stuff. Travel is a force for good. But we need to qualify things. We need to sound like ChatGPT didn't write what we're saying. It has to come from our hearts. Emma talked about passion. We need to be helpful. I like choice points. I talk about eco-prompts in hotels. We need to give more difficult topics airtime. Hello, sex trafficking. Why am I not hearing anyone talking about that? Where we have the highest levels of sex trafficking, we have the highest levels of tourism. Come on. It's crazy. These are problems. And now I've met someone wonderful, a wonderful woman, Hallie in London. I met her at the Google headquarters. She was trafficked at age 7 from Nigeria to Italy. She's now in the UK and she makes cakes. Made a crazy good cake for my daughter's birthday. I'll start crying if I tell you her story. I heard it from her. Trafficked by her aunt. We need to give these people voices, many more voices. We can't just be selling products. We have a responsibility to make people care about the things that matter. Just checking my time. I like a deadline, I'm a journalist. So, we talk about edutainment, educating people and entertaining them. I always think, again, that sort of, as a mum, when kids don't want to eat vegetables, we've got to puree the vegetables. That's the sustainability. They love spaghetti meat sauce. Sure, let's make spaghetti bolognese. Puree in the vegetables, sneak it into the sauce. That's what we have to do with sustainability. We really need to shake up our language. I'm going to tell you a story, my own story, without my notes. It makes me feel shaky. It's not about the time the climate emergency caused so much rain in London that I lost my flat. That's a true story. I lost everything I own. It's a true story. But not that story. It was January, and I was really excited because Smartflyer invited me to come and do their keynote. Do anyone know what Smartflyer is? It's a network of highest very high-value luxury travel agents, right? I might get this stat wrong because I forgot to check it and I didn't want to look like I wasn't listening to you guys and look it up. But I think there's like 3,500 billionaires in the world, 1,500 of them in the United States. I think so, but check that. So I thought, these people, these travel agents, there's like 500 of them in a room. I'm like, these people are here on behalf of people with a lot of money. And they're the ones we need to change their ways. They're the ones with the high carbon lifestyles, right? I was excited though, I was motivated. And I'm being interviewed by this guy, we'd had a Zoom, I picked up, he was a little, anyway. I knew that chemistry wasn't there. But I thought, it's fine, fine. We sit down. He starts asking me questions. They're none of the questions we planned that I had answers for. None of them. And I'm like, hey, so we're going on. I can't tell you what that feeling feels like. If you think I'm nervous now, it's like all the blood rushes to your stomach. And you're like, oh my God. And it got worse. He started saying, well, the temperatures have always fluctuated. I'm like, oh my God, he's reading from the climate denier script. He's going to trip me. He's here to trip me up. He's here to make me look bad. I'm squandering time where I could be giving actual climate solutions and ideas. And I am having to justify that there even is a climate issue when we know 99.9% of scientists are agreed about that. And I thought, keep cool, Juliet, it's fine, you got this. And he started this, and I just went, Mark, I can't remember anything else about him, there's no room on my hard drive for climate deniers. I said, Mark, sorry, you're going to have to give me a second. I'm really uncomfortable here in this ballroom on Park Lane at the Dorchester. Highest real estate probably in the world, some of it. You're white, I'm white. Talking about whether or not there are 8 billion people in the world and 4 billion of those people are already experiencing extreme weather as a result of the climate emergency, and they're disproportionately people of color, I find it racist. And I swear you've never felt a room vacuum so fast. Americans, I dropped the R-bomb. I'm like, the lights are on my face, I can't read any faces. I'm like, that's it, my career's over. Fuck it, I wanted to be a florist anyway. I'm just like, I can't believe I've done this. Oh my God, I'm getting pins and needles, it's coming back to me. And he just kept going. And I thought, oh, come on, Juliet, oh, I'll even bring him back. I've got PTSD. I thought, you got this. And I thought, I've gone that far, may as well go whole hog. I went, Mark, sitting around here, having this conversation, talking about whether or not we should care about the climate emergency. I think it's no different to a couple hundred years ago, us two white people sitting around whether slavery's a big deal. I thought, oh God, I've really done it now. I've lost my job, everything. I can't read anyone. Anyway, it continued. And I thank Smartflyer and their audience because I did get a standing ovation, but I couldn't read the room. And they all came up to me and they thanked me and said, thank you for just speaking your mind, the truth. No one dares to talk about this. That's what we have to do. That's what we have to do. And think about that. We have to make people uncomfortable. We have to talk about things that make people uncomfortable. I'm still getting emails from people from that audience. It was amazing. I checked out that guy's Instagram. It's like a selfie with Trump. I mean, literally. The power of exponential storytelling. The power of everyone here hearing something from this conference, going away, telling people other stories, listening to people's stories. The privilege we have as travelers. I have 6 seconds left. That's brilliant. I can't believe I did it on time. Thank you so much. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Juliet. You're right. We all have a responsibility and we have to shake up conversations. Okay, so let's go for the Q&I. Please go to Slido to put in your questions. And let's go with the first one. Milena, can you give us some examples of tourism actors who help their guests to go with the flow for increased sustainability?
Absolutely. I'm actually going to use as an example, the conference we are all attending and how gently sustainable choices are weaved into the design and are pre-made for us. So I gave the example with the glass versus bottled water with the vegetarian meals. with not provided buses to move around and so on, and encouraging people to move around by the fantastic public transportation in town. So these are great examples that also reinforce the fact that in many occasions, adjusting the design of these choice points is also awfully easy. That actually makes it very accessible and possible for the small players in the industry to do that. And we know that they form very often 80 to 90% of the industry. So plenty of examples like that.
Thank you. Okay, while you're still writing your questions, I have one for Emma. What opportunities and challenges do digital tools like new AI, VR, represent in storytelling and narrative, in the narrative of sustainability?
That's a big and broad question, so I touch upon a few things, I think. It provides a lot of possibilities when it comes to sustainability in terms of, for example, being able to visit places digitally instead of going there physically, especially places that are protected or that are sensitive, and that it's not good if a lot of people go there. I think also when it comes to, for example, the development that we see when it comes to digital twins, it's interesting to see how that can be used as a tool also for people with disabilities, for example, to explore a place and to see a place before actually going there, to see if this is a place where I can actually go and visit or not.
Yeah, I tried that actually before coming to the conference. My husband bought these glasses. I don't know which ones they were. And he's like, okay, put that on. And I'm like, where am I going, you know? It's a surprise. So I put on the glasses. I appear like in a safari in Africa. I turned around and I see a tiger and I actually jumped back. I was like, whoa. So it actually works. It feels very immersive, like you're actually there.
Yeah.
So.
I guess also in terms of sort of tailor making your experience, which we already experience a lot, but that could be developed even further. So if you are to travel to a place and to actually get advice on what to visit based on your profile, that is something that we see developing more. But of course, that also comes with issues of sort of integrity and ethical concerns and so on.
True. It's curious also how it actually feels that you're there. So I told him, okay, put me in a beach, you know? And you actually feel relaxed. And you're in your living room, you know? But it's very curious, AI, VR. Okay, let's go with the next one. Emma, this is also for you from Anjung. Very interesting research and curious to hear if there were outcomes that really surprised you.
Yeah, I think it's maybe not super surprising, but I think what touched me was something that we've talked about now already, with this kind of the importance of the face-to-face meetings and the importance of participating in activities, and what I already mentioned in my presentation, but also to really communicate something with passion and to do that with people, and how important that is and how powerful that is. And I think that's important for us to take with us also in this like digital age where a lot of things happen in an online setting instead.
Juliet, you have one. How do you feel that the narrative on sustainability has changed from the start of your career to now?
That's a great question, isn't it? Well, I focused on sustainability in travel since 2015, so I'll look at it from then. So it used to focus on environmentals. It used to be like, oh, I'm specializing in hotels, properties that are sustainable. And when I was at Mr. and Mrs. Smith, I noticed there were some hotels people weren't celebrating for being, having positive impact, but also being beautiful hotels. That was the genre I noticed. But we still focused on solar panels. We focused on the green energy side of it. And I think we're learning also as society, obviously intersectionality. We're realizing everything's as much about people as it is the environment and community. And we realize, we're talking about economic sustainability a lot more. And we know, obviously, our sector is 12% of the global economy. So, I mean, I think, a lot of people say, oh, sustainable travel, so basically you can't fly anywhere. And in fact, what can you do? And I'm like, no, actually, it's just about making sure people get that return on emissions. So people are becoming more aware, but we still have to. It's a great way to educate them about the nuances. That's the whole. That's the whole point of it. That's that people are becoming more aware, but we still have a responsibility to explain to people in climate vulnerable destinations. Pandemic showed us how reliant they are on revenue from travel, particularly luxury travel. Power and funding conservation.
Okay, next one. It's not addressed to anybody in particular, so you can all answer. It's from Gabriela Grandinsky. We get comments from our guests that they want to have fun and have no interest in sustainability and don't want to be reminded about boring things. What to do?
I'll take that because it's right at the heart of what I was talking about. This is precisely the idea with the mainstream approach we have been taking. The moment that we put it in clash with the main motivation of why travelers are here in the first place, we have zero chance of achieving something. So. One way is at the point where they don't really care about the choice to just switch it around and make it part of the design and eliminate the decision making altogether. That is enjoyable for them and certainly better for the business and for the destination because you're the hosts and you know what's best for your destination and your business. And then in some aspects, we just have to change the story and present more sustainable experiences and more sustainable choices in more appealing ways. So the same way that we try to present local food as an irresistible choice without really highlighting the fact that it's economically better, that it produces more social benefits for the local farmers, local producers, we have more chances of getting people to choose it because they demand the experience and the added value from an experiential point of view. So in some areas, using insights such as the ones that Emma mentioned, we have an easy shot at the story. In some cases, it's going to be a little bit harder, but we just have to move in that direction. We cannot leave it to the ethics and value system of travelers to decide what's going to be the impact on our destination, and that's the whole idea here.
I'd love to just emphasize the edutainment opportunity, educating people through in an entertaining way. And I realized that actually the moment I really cared about staying in hotels that were sustainable, it's 2006. I was at CGH Earth, Marari Beach in Kerala, and I had a back-of-house tour. I know that Cayuga Collection in Costa Rica and Panama and has been doing that for many years, 25 years. But the back-of-house tour is such a great way to engage, send kids off, they learn about it, it's science. It really makes you care. It's not boring, basically. It feeds your curiosity. I remember putting my hand into a bath of worms on Chempedak Island. It was a really romantic resort. You wouldn't think that's what I'm remembering. I do remember it was open air rooms, and late at night you could hear those animal noises. But you had our hands in the worms, and them explaining to us, the power of worms as eco-engineers, and that how we need them in soil, and how it's part of permaculture principles. And that's what I talked about pureeing in the vegetables, the spaghetti sauce, is that it isn't boring. Trust me, it's not boring. It just depends on who's telling the story.
Okay, there's a question that went up with 6 likes, so I'm going to address it. It's from Rob Holmes. It's for you, Juliet. Sure. Saudi Arabia is the elephant in the tourism room. How do we get more leaders to speak up more about their problems? And then he says, this is a safe space.
Using the word, that's a very subjective framing of that question. I'm very vocal around Saudi, NEOM. I'm very vocal about the indigenous people that were executed for protesting against NEOM. I'm incredibly vocal. I'm happy to still be here. But I've had a bit of a turnaround in the last 6 months, Rob. Where are you, Rob? Oh, you're right there, okay. So, thanks. So I've been really thinking about geopolitics and the world a lot. I've been really thinking about Saudi's history because I have been very vocal, and like everyone's nose is in the trough for money. I didn't go to WTM because it was sponsored by Saudi. I felt like that. I'm vocal. The Middle East has a lot of money. Their coffers are flowing over Saudi because, particularly opportunistically, because of Russia, Ukraine, right? The biggest company in the world, their oil company. They're a big part of all our future, and I have to think about it a lot. They offered me £1,000 an hour to consult with them a few years ago. I turned that down. I wouldn't turn it down today. I'm a woman also, so I have an issue with Saudi. But the Middle East, imagine if everyone in the Middle East just walked around going, Europe, Europe, Europe. We're all different, it's nuanced, right? We need to understand it better. Saudi is a very young country. I need to educate myself on its history. I've been invited there many times. I choose not to go simply because I believe in the power of wealth distribution. I believe in sending the money from those billionaires in the United States to the countries that rely on it, where they very low GDP and they rely on tourism. They don't need our tourism money. I think it cannibalizes the pot, you know. So that's my view on that. I don't think it's is it an elephant in the room? I think, but progress, that's the narrative we get from them, right? Progress doesn't happen without us interacting. And I'm hearing some pretty compelling stories coming out of Saudi. I don't MBH, I mean, you know, if we were in a bar doing shots, I have no idea. Is he a good guy? No idea. I don't believe in their values, do not align with my values, but that's kind of arrogant. I feel like we have a responsibility. 195 countries in the world. There's a lot of countries that don't do things the way I approve. So I think we need to all have open, honest conversations. I think Saudi is opening conversations. I'm changing my mood around them. And I don't think we can just shame and I just don't think we can do that as a world of 195 countries. We have to respect different cultures and different ways of being. I respect, you know, I made my documentary in Morocco and spent time with Muslim communities during Ramadan. We could all learn a lot about, you know, we could all do a sort of detox in Ramadan. The world politics, our views on religion, I mean, it's so divisive in this world. I don't think it's helpful to be more divisive. I think, you know, if I ever put anything on my Instagram, I mean, it's about Palestine or Israel, I mean, it's honestly, come on, let's have just calm conversations. You know, respectful. I think our guide always has to be respectful. So I don't know. I'm thinking, I did a big talk about geopolitics and ethics and Saudi, and I'm just trying to get my head around it. They're our future. They're buying everything. Okay, so how do we reconcile? How do we make peace with that? The United Kingdom created Saudi. I mean, how old are they as a nation? I mean, like, who are we to judge? Anyway, it's really interesting. Let's all sit around and have proper open conversations with people from different walks of life.
Okay, we've been getting a
Line up
lot
to
of
get.
questions, so I'll go with this one from Moran Stark. Maybe you can address it, Emma. It's easy to be authentic and walk the walk when you're a micro business. What about destinations or big hotels? Question mark.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's always easy for micro businesses to walk the talk either. Or, I mean, there are challenges to micro businesses as well in terms of at least some of the people that I talked to, they said or they suggested to other tourism actors to, you know, start somewhere, do something. Start with what you're passionate about, start from there, which is, I mean, it's a good advice in some ways, that it's good to do something and it's good to start somewhere. But the challenge is, of course, then you may start with something that is actually not where you have your most severe impact on sustainable development, and you may not have the resources to do proper materiality analysis or stakeholder dialogue. So that would be sort of a downside or a challenge for the micro companies, whereas the bigger destinations and big companies, they have the resources to actually do that work and do it properly. So I don't think they have an excuse of not doing, not working with sustainability and not properly looking into their impacts on sustainable development and taking that work seriously. If that answers the question to some extent, yeah.
Thank you. Okay, another one Oh, I see our chair made a question. Thank you, Luigi. Many of the experiences shown related to tourists when they are on a place. How to motivate those browsing online to choose a more sustainable experience? Who wants to get this one?
I can start, and I'm sure that there's going to be additions. Ultimately, what we need to be moving towards is to accept that sustainability should be the norm, as I mentioned, non-negotiable. And so in that sense, my response to this question is that we should be packaging and presenting sustainable experiences as irresistible. And science, both human behavior, communications, actually give us enough tools and methods to do that in a way that ignites the interest, engages the traveler, and picks up their curiosity to try something. In many cases, this would be something newer, more different, and entertaining in different ways. And so that's a very powerful vehicle for nudging that transition.
Yeah, I mean, people just want great holidays, so it's exactly what we're talking about. Talk about sustainability without talking about sustainability. Intrepid does it really well, you know. Just people-led. Just go. The reason we can travel, what a privilege it is to travel, is it takes us out of our myopia. I get to go and hang out and get a tour of Istanbul with a Syrian refugee. Frame it as a privilege and just an enriching experience. You know, sustainability, you just don't have to package it as that, because people do think it's a compromise to comfort or convenience. They do, mostly. You know, so we just have to make what is like define luxury and represent the values of luxury through what also aligns with sustainability. It makes you think, you go deeper. I mean, my best experiences when I travel have been like meeting the guy who took me on a boat in Sri Lanka, his mum up in a paddy field. She didn't even speak English, and just that moment and those, you know, communicate the magic and the privilege of being able to do that. Don't market hotels based on amenities and facilities. I mean, that's you know, that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing is a disservice to the environment. By the way, I said MBH and I meant MBS. Anyway, if I'm going to diss him, I may as well get his initials right. Sorry. Yes.
Okay, next one that's on the top with 6 votes. What is your take on how the EU Green Claims Directive will affect on how we're able to communicate about sustainability going forward?
Can I give a small example of someone who did actually get officially one of the first travel companies in the UK, also Intrepid, and that by their own confession or admission, I know because they told me, they sent out a press release. So they had said planet positive holidays. There were adverts all over the tube. There was only one complaint to the ASA, Advertising Standards Authority in the UK, and it was upheld. And so I think I think it's really important that we don't use this soft language, these woolly, meaningless phrases, and we just need to really qualify what we're saying and demonstrate positive impact. As the GSTC has said throughout this conference and the course, you know, we need to show how we're maximizing positive impact and reducing negative. And I think that's, you know, I think it's fantastically helpful.
What do you all think about social media? Is it helping or hurting sustainable tourism, with Insta-worthy destinations reporting over tourism? Go on. I'm
sorry. I mean, I use Instagram a lot. I love it for sharing stories to inspire impact. But it's both, isn't it? It's like everything. Predominantly, I feel social media is doing a disservice to our world. But I mean, that's again, it's a nuanced conversation. It's all get a drink later. Sure, need one. You know, social media is what it's just is. I mean, okay, I'm a journalist. I went on a press trip 2 weeks ago with influencers. Never put journalists with influencers. So we're at a table. This is a content creator here. Turns to the other content creator and goes, "Oh, you got to use the gym. It's great content." I'm literally like. And then I turned to this other editor. We're walking away. I went, "Oh my God, that was so depressing. It makes me want to kill them. Makes me want to kill myself." She went, "Juliet, kill the young influencer. That would make nothing like a tragic murder for some great content." But anyway, the point is, it's just dumbing things down and it's reductive and it's superficial. And I think if anyone, you know, I'm not saying all influencers are like that at all. I'm just saying we all have a responsibility when we tell stories to have a, you know, just think, how can I puree in those vegetables? How can I make them, you know, make people think rather than just being selling? Are you selling or are you telling? That's just your guide. Are you selling or are you telling? So I think as long as social media, and the over-tourism piece, I mean, that's a disaster for many places, isn't it? Oh my God, there's a pub apparently, that's not social media, but Taylor Swift mentions in her new album in South London, which is apparently just being bombarded. I don't know if the pub loves that. But I mean, like, sometimes it's good. It depends. It depends. If it's that tiny little creek that was so beautiful and then everyone's flocking there blindly. Oh, I don't know. It's nuanced.
But the reality is it's here. We're not going to just reject it and say go away, especially for the next generation of travelers. So to me, we just need to sit down as an industry, map what are the risks and what are the opportunities, and just try to align with that, because it's not going to go away. And
it's true. I mean, it's social media. It was microblogging. Do you remember a blog? Do you know why blogs were called blogs? They were weblogs, and there were these long things of text. Do you remember that? So I mean, if you look at them as positive, it's just these little bite-sized bits of information, edutainment. I think we all have a responsibility to, if you have any influence on an influencer, try and get them to, you know, and also fact check. That's the other thing that we're losing from. That's the problem with social media: opinion versus hard fact.
I think we see some interesting examples, for example, in South Sweden with the DMO Visit Skåne, how they're working with micro-influencers or small influencers and really creating relationships and building bonds with them, and then giving them a lot of freedom, of course, to tour around the area, the region, whatever way they want to do, but also encourage them to go to certain places, and they really like select influencers that promote and stand for sustainable practices and so on. And I think that could also be one way to influence visitors to go to other places rather than the very, very commonly visited ones.
And also, as an industry, can we not judge everyone on metrics and judge them on quality? Because we're all guilty of it. I've seen reports of when I stayed, people ask me what's your following? I'm like, I'm sorry, if I go somewhere, it's as a journalist. It's just extra gravy that you might get social media. I just can't bear this value through quantification of everything. It's just, it's terrible. Sorry.
No, it's true.
But follow me on Instagram.
It's true. A lot of people also buy followers, so that data is not real.
Check. Yeah, that's true.
Okay, next one. Milena, this one is for you. Can you give us some examples of tourism actors who help their guests to go with the flow for increased sustainability? Did we?
we did that.
Oh, sorry. It was on the top. Okay, another one. How do you encourage sustainable behavior from guests without sounding like you're pointing your finger at them or being annoying for imposing it on them?
Two ways. Again, we need to understand that travelers make two types of decisions. Some of them are operational, functional. These are how to get from the airport to the destination, how to move around, how to find the most comfortable way of spending time with kids and so on. So functional, operational decisions, and their purpose is to minimize frictions. So any decisions or any choice points which relate to practical and functional decisions, we just have to make sustainability either the default or part of the design, basically eliminate the choice, or at least make it as easy as possible. The water example, the vegetarian food example, the public transport example. Then the other decisions which relate to value, experience, memory creation, this is where we have to do a little bit of storytelling and present the sustainable choices as the exciting choices. And again, maybe not even talk about sustainability, just present it as the most exciting and more irresistible option.
I would also say it's tone of voice, isn't it? It's how you make people feel. So that's why I work as a communications consultant. You know, I helped Hoxton launch, the Hoxton group launch. You know, we wanted to incentivize people to take the train. It's how you say things. You know, how does it? Are you encouraging someone to do something because it sounds fun or positive and it makes them expand, or are you telling them something that makes them feel bad? and guilty, and it makes them contract. I mean, that's the art of copywriting, and that's why we should be using great writers and not ChatGPT to write things. You know, it's how you make people feel. Words are powerful. Language is powerful.
And actually, there's something else that's important here, is that even if you don't talk about sustainability, but actually about the excitement, the entertainment, and you get people through the experience. And then after the experience ends, if you actually tell them then that, oh, by the way, in addition to having all the fun that you did and created all the memories that you did, you were low carbon or whatever it was, people actually get an extra boost to their satisfaction, and also they remember. So in terms of educating travelers how to be more sustainable over the life of their journey in the future, that's actually what works much better, when they, after the fact, learn that they have been good without actually having made the effort to do so, because next time they'll actually look for that. And if it's missing, they're going to pay attention to that. So doing that communication piece after the fact is actually more powerful.
And I think those moments, I mean, menus, I'm always shocked more people don't use menus as an opportunity. I've been working on menu zines for years. It's that when you're sat there talking about the suppliers, again, that's talking about sustainability without talking about it. You're talking about local suppliers. If you can get in some information there about the stats, about you know, how important it is to have local and seasonal and what that does from an environmental point of view. Although I did read a report the other day that said that the food, it's only 5% is the transport is the issue, actually. We talk about the footprint or the food print a lot. Actually, 95% is the manufacturing and storage and all of that. So but I learned that from a report. Put that on a menu, and that's how people would digest it better. Make it accessible.
I think also what I saw in my interviews, and for example with Lilla Bjärst in Gotland, they talked about this a lot, that we don't want to point finger at anyone, we don't want to tell anyone that you should do it this way or that way, but we want to show how we do it, and we want to show that it's possible to do it and explain how we do it and why we do it, and then provide that as a good example to show that it's possible. And I think also with Eco Sightseeing, the sightseeing company here in Stockholm, they also wanted to like do something good and talk about it, and then be a good example for others, to inspire others to follow, but not saying that you have to do that or you have to do this, but more as an inspiration.
Yeah. I'm going to mix two questions. Juliet, these are addressed to you, so I'm going to mix them up. Do you feel the world is caring more and more about responsible activities, or are consumers getting fatigued and confused? There are way too much lingo: sustainability, eco, purposeful, regenerative. How do we stop the madness and get back to the basics?
Am I tackling those? I might tackle the white woman as well. We can't let that one go. So all of those, just use language with intention. Don't use a script. Don't use, you know, actually think about what you're saying and what it means. Yeah, there are buzzwords. People love buzzwords. We're in the corporate world, the Americanification of our corporate world. I mean, how many people on Zoom calls just use a script? It's just cut and paste. Just use language that is original. Construct sentences from your brain rather than what you've heard people say. I play like corporate bingo in my Zoom lessons. I'm really interested. Yeah, the people I was going to... Did I not say that? I think I was editing some of my talk out. I was going to say we all have sustainability fatigue, surely. So I just want to address that other question that I saw. Oh, it's gone now. First person. Of course I get more. I have an advantage being a white woman. Of course I do. I spent the first 2 years of my life in Algeria, and my mother had really bad mental health, nervous breakdown, whatever you want to call it. So she was not in my life. I was looked after by a woman in a hijab. And I don't even know her name. Is that crazy? It's so awful. But I am very conscious of the advantage and privilege, and I use my voice. And I really work hard to hand my microphone. If you look at a lot, I mean, honestly, if you look at a lot of the talks I've done and panel discussions, I often bring in, certainly at We Are Africa, which is a trade show, we did the whole thing last year, and I coached a lot of black African women. Their third language was English. I mean, I'm humbled. You know, and I've watched a lot of them go on the circuit since we've done that. I absolutely use my privilege, and I hope I try and pass it on. I do it all the time. Giel, if you look on my Instagram, I brought him in on Monday. He's from South Sudan. I work with it because of the climate change denier in January who interviewed me. I thought, people need to get it. They're not getting it about the racism around climate. So I absolutely bring in voices, black Africans, and help people, you know, try and understand. Because even this conference is pretty myopic. I was talking to someone about it. A lot of people talk from their perspective as Europeans, right? Okay, we all need to shake it up a bit. That's my comment. But yes, it is an advantage. I'm not, you know, and I'm trying to bring other people past the mic. What can I say? That we all should.
Well, maybe that answers this one. How can we effectively weave sustainability in our storytelling to an audience that is skeptical to important subjects, such as the climate urgency?
Without talking about it. Emphasize the excitement, the different, the entertainment aspect, and not whether it's related to climate or not. I mean, the reality is that we have to normalize and make the best possible actions non-negotiable. And the way to do it is to just eliminate this as something in the conversation. We don't have to convince them.
Okay. Another one. 25 seconds, fast. Does the value-based perspective demand other reasons for communicating than marketing and increased sales? Tourism as important part of change? Question mark.
Is that under the numbers? I can't see that question.
No, here it's at the top.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, in general, Juliet mentioned earlier that this emphasis on volume has done a lot of harm to our industry. Until we move towards KPIs or a KPI that measures the value that tourism leaves in the local economy, in the local place, rather than the volume of the visitor flow, we're going to be struggling with this because even if many tourism professionals, and I'm sure most of the people at this conference know that we cannot continue measuring our success by volume, the reality is that budgets and funding and policies are still tied to volume-based KPIs because we don't have an alternative. And the reality is, from a behavioral perspective, we are not going to see a drastic change until we actually see an alternative to volume-based that is just as easy to measure. I mean, all of the systems that we now have in the industry that involve tracking 17, 27, 54 indicators, no destination is going to transition to that. Even the ones that have TSA incorporated, we just have to find that one golden value-based alternative measure that is just as easy to count as people crossing the border, to see the big change and to see everything in the tourism ecosystem align with the value-based perspective, including marketing. That's what I think.
So there's a bit more questions, but our time is up. Thank you for being in our panel, and please give a big applause to these wonderful professionals.
Well done.
Thank you.
Amazing.
Thank you. Very good.